Hey coffee lovers, Josh here with your guide to all things brewed, chilled and caffeinated. Today we're diving into not just one, but 4 fantastic cold brew makers, each promising to make smooth, cool, and downright irresistible coffee experiences. And along the way, we'll uncover how these brewers work, which one suits your style best, and my personal take on the taste from each. Plus, we'll talk about ease of use, versatility, and how they stack up against each other. And whether you're just starting out on your cold brew journey or searching for that perfect upgrade to elevate your morning coffee game, grab your favorite mug, sit back, and let's kick things off. Now, to begin talking about cold brewing, I want to make the difference between cold drip coffee and what we're actually doing today, which will be cold steeping. They're both all about extracting smooth, low acidity flavors from your coffee. However, cold steeping is as simple as steeping coffee grounds in cold water and then letting time work its magic, which is perfect for those hot days or if you prefer a mellow cup of coffee. Look, you can even warm cold brew up in the microwave. There really are no rules to this, and you can even use a French press to get you started. But let's be honest, these dedicated cold brewers really take the process to the next level, as they are designed to make the entire experience more seamless and brew more consistent and enjoyable cups of coffee. And the best part? I think I've mentioned this already, it is easy and you can brew large batches at home, no worries. But with so many brewers out there, how do you pick the right one? Well, here I've done all the brooding so you don't have to. So let's head back to my place and we'll meet the contenders. Starting from left to right, we have the Toddy cold brew system for tea or coffee, next to the Espro CB1 cold brew kit, then the Varia steep cold brew bottle, and crowd favorite, the Hario Cold Brew Pot. Since it's the easiest, let's begin with that one first. The Hario Cold Brew Pot comes in a 1 litre or smaller 600ml pot option. Built with a heat-proof Hario glass carafe using BPA-free plastic for the filter and the lid, it doesn't get much simpler than this. Its 60-micron filter ensures a clean, grit-free brew every time, and the filter can hold upwards of 100 grams of ground coffee. To begin, I like to fill the pot up first with around 800 ml of water, and then weigh out 100 grams of coffee and grind this up. Now, for most cold brewing, you'll want to grind on the coarser settings of your grinder, so it will be a little bit finer than rock salt. Next, add the grounds into the filter basket, and then place the filter basket into the pot and begin to slowly pour water in over the top. Now, you can use room temperature water or chilled water for this brewing process, remembering there's almost no rules to this. Once it is filled up to the top, place the lid on the pot and then place it in the fridge from anywhere between 8 to 24 hours. Notice the Hario Cold Brew Pot must stand up in the fridge, so it's usually inside the door that you'll have the room. After you've let it steep for your chosen time, you can remove the filter to stop the brewing, and then the pot becomes the server for your cold brew. Removing the filter is easy, and then you can place the pot back in the fridge. Now, I haven't found beyond 24 hours brewing to be any more beneficial and tend to brew for 12 to 18 hours max. Cleaning the Hario brew pot is somewhat easy and should be done immediately after removing the filter. Dumping those grounds and then giving the filter a good rinse, and even a gentle scrub under some warm water will help remove those smaller particles that are trapped in the filter. And then give it a thorough dry. And the Hario Cold Brew Pot does balance simplicity with functionality very well. Though, let's now step it up with the Varia Steep's sleek, modern design. This more sophisticated brewer brews in a similar fashion to the Hario Cold Brew Pot, with a few additions to its design, making it a cleaner process for brewing and serving, along with thicker glass and higher quality plastics used. The Varia Steep has a slightly smaller capacity to the Hario and holds a maximum 750 ml of water in the pot and 60 grams of ground coffee in the basket. The top of the Varia Steep is made up of 4 individual parts that together make a closed basket system, and I'll show you what I mean. To begin with, you fill that filter basket with your 60 grams of coarsely ground coffee, and then attach this to the filter holder, and then attach that then to the spout. Then screw this onto the bottle, and then you can directly pour water into the top to begin the brewing process. And then once that's done, add the lid on here, and I would simply give it a gentle swirl to help that brewing process along. Notice the Varia steep is completely leak proof, so when placing it in the fridge, you're not confined to placing it upright vertically, and you're able to place it lying down horizontally where it will continue to brew away. The Varia Steep's closed basket system ensures a mess-free brewing experience from start to finish. Unlike the Hario, the Varia's closed basket lets you pour and serve without removing the grounds, and cleaning though would follow very similarly to the Hario Cold Brew Pot. The Varia Steep offers a sleek design with convenience. But when it comes to serious capacity and durable materials, the Espro CB1 steps it up even further. So here you have separate containers for your brewing and storage. Up top, you have a stainless steel brewing pot with no real capacity to the ground coffee. You have a plastic coupling that sits in between, and then a fantastic 1.4 litre glass growler. This even includes handy recipes when it comes time to brewing, with pre-measured water lines on the growler that make it beginner friendly and foolproof. Inside the brewing pot, you have a stainless steel fine mesh filter, and then at the bottom, a one-way ball valve that will come in handy later on. So to begin brewing, have the filter seated in the bottom. We're also going to grab an Espro CB1 filter paper. Now be aware, these are a one-use paper filter, so it's good to be stocked up on these. In not using one, your cold brew is more likely to have finer coffee grounds in it. So add the filter, then add your coffee to your desired recipe. I'm going to be using 340 grams of coarse ground coffee and around 1.7 litres of water. Another neat part to this workflow is, for your desired recipe, you fill the water up to that line in the growler. Then pour the water slowly over the coffee, getting it all saturated. I'll even give it a gentle stir here between pours, but be careful not to tear the paper filter. Then fill the growler again with your second pour, and then after which I like to fold the top of the paper filter back up and then clip it with something nice and tight. Then place the lid on, and we're going to add this into the fridge to carry on brewing for 12 hours. Or if room in the fridge is sparse, you can leave it on the bench to brew for that time limit. Once the brewing is complete, grab the coupling. This has a little needle that'll pop open the ball valve in the brewer. Add this to the top of the growler and then balance the brewer on top. It looks precarious, but it is stable, trust me. I had to open up the lid here just to get that flow going, as there was some suction up top in the brewer. But as it comes out to the end, it does also help to lift the bag a little bit in order to get those last few drips. And once it's flowed all the way down, you'll find you'll be pretty close to where the recipe said you would be. Then add the lid to the growler, and then you can store this in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. When it comes to cleaning, dump the bag in the bin, but make sure you don't throw that mesh filter out like I did here. Then rinse everything thoroughly. We'll keep it like brand new. The Espro's stainless steel pot does feel premium, and this is incredibly easy to keep clean. And the Espro CB1 delivers exceptional quality in a compact setup. Now, for those who want even more capacity and unmatched filtration, the Toddy cold brew system is a true classic. And it is similar to how the Espro does brew. You've got a plastic brewer up top though, and a glass decanter with a 2 litre capacity. It's ideal for entertaining or prepping for a week ahead. Inside the brewer, there's a silicone stopper at the bottom. Now this you really want to make sure that you have in place before you begin brewing. The Toddy also comes with a great super fine fabric filter. I would say this is by far the best filter of all the cold brewers. It does have a lifetime, so it will need to be replaced, but it works magic making sure that your brewed coffee is super smooth without any grounds. Though I will still also use a Toddy paper filter here, and this further filters the brew and also lengthens the life of that fabric filter. Here, I'll be using the same amount of ground coffee as the Espro, so 340 grams of ground coffee. And in this instance, I'm just going to be filling that decanter up all the way. So that way I can't make any more cold brew than this jar can actually carry. And then I won't overfill it when it comes to decanting it. So once again, pour the water over the grounds. And I'm going to give it a little stir once more, then tie the bag up, place the lid on, and then place this in the fridge again for 12 to 18 hours. When it comes time to decant, place the brewer over the glass jar, and you want to carefully remove that stopper and it will drain out. I also find here lifting the bag again a little bit will help get those last few drops out. Then with the decanter lid on, you can place that brew back in the fridge for storage. In cleaning the toddy, dump the bag, hold on to the filter, and then give everything a good rinse out, paying special attention to that fabric filter. Giving this an especially good rinse as it will hold on to the very finer particles of ground coffee, and you want to get these out through each brew cycle to lengthen the lifespan of this filter. Then make sure everything dries thoroughly and you'll be good to go for next time. Now with everything brewed, chilled, and filters clean, all there's left to do is enjoy this coffee, so let's head back to the studio and see how they taste. All right, so I have 5 glasses in front of me. Now, I thought, why not do a blind test, right? Because there's no point in testing them knowing exactly what I'm brewing or what I'm tasting from, because there might be some bias in that. I'm just gonna taste these and tell you my direct experience as I'm tasting them. Now, all the coffees were brewed similarly, cold brewing, right? But there was obviously some differences in the brew ratios. So how much coffee I used to how much water, and that's really due to the brewer specific, how it's meant to be used. But they all used the same coffee and the same grind size. Now, the coffee that I used was an espresso blend. Look, I think there is some factor to using different beans will pull out different flavors, cold brew or hot brewing. But when it comes to cold brew, it's a little bit more generic of flavors. Like generally, you're just gonna kind of get a very mellow, bold kind of flavor out of it. You can use something very unique, like a single origin Ethiopian, and have some really fruity, floral notes coming out, which can be really delicious. But then sometimes it can also be just lost. It'll just be like a weak brew and you don't get those flavors out. So I just generally find when I'm cold brewing, I tend to lean more towards the heavier, bolder espresso blends for cold brewing as opposed to using filter beans. It's just easier to pull out the flavors from those coffees. This, I guess I'm just, again, expecting heavy chocolates. There's dried fruit, maybe some butterscotch. There might be some sweetness in that. These have all brewed for 18 hours and then actually sat in the fridge for another 24 hours. Now, the reason I left it for another 24 hours is they keep on brewing. See, with hot coffee, we tend to consume it rather quickly, so there is no chance for it to further brew or sit and steep. But with cold brewing, there is still some insoluble particles that have found their way into the coffee. It's kind of like that sludge at the bottom, and that is still brewing. So there's still flavor getting added to the coffee. Now, it's not going to add any bitter notes. It's just going to add a little bit of strength that I find. So I did want to leave it an extra 24 hours just to see where it takes it. Yeah, and I think that's about it. I think I should just start tasting these coffees. All right, let's just start tasting these coffees. I'll start from left to right. I'll drink them, and then I'll tell you which one's which. Oh, I can tell you, it's a hot summer's day here where I am. This is delicious. This is like super smooth. It is like butterscotchy. There is like a lot of butterscotch sweetness in this. There's like some nice kind of mellow milk to almost dark chocolate sweetness in it as well, kind of like a body carrying through. I would happily drink this as it is straight or over some ice. Like, this is delicious. This is really nice by itself. It's not too strong. It's certainly not weak. Like, you could possibly water it down with some milk, which we'll try later on, but like in general, just pouring this straight and then drinking this, it's really delicious. All right, cup number 2. Oh, wow, that's quite heavy. I can almost tell immediately that this possibly would be one of the bucket brews. So it's like at quite a higher ratio of using more coffee to water. Yeah, there's no sweetness in this like there is in this butterscotchy cup. It's just quite a strong body, quite robust straight up. I mean, like the color itself kind of suggests that it's going to be quite a strong brew. There is some brightness though, to begin with. I wouldn't say it's sweet, but there is some brightness that kind of like might hint at some sweetness. But really, it's just kind of like punches home with a lot of body. Flavor notes, I would say, almost savory. It's a little bit more savory than it is chocolate. It's quite strong. So this is something I would definitely want to kind of add some milk to, or some creamer. I mean, you could drink it over ice and dilute it again more, but yeah, I wouldn't be drinking this straight. It just seems a little bit touch too strong for that. All right, next cup. That's nice. Interesting. So similarly, quite dark and rich, but whereas this is like quite heavy, and it had, like I said, some brightness up front, but it didn't really kind of turn into anything, and it was all just kind of heavy punch. This, on the other hand, oh, it's quite nice. It's kind of caramelly almost, like it has that butterscotch and that chocolate, but it kind of melds into some caramels, and it's not as strong as this, and it is much stronger than this. It kind of sits in the middle here, where I would say if you do enjoy a strong cup of coffee, then you could drink this straight. You could drink this straight too quite easily. It's very refreshing. This, I think, is just a bit too much to drink straight. This is quite nice. I would, yeah, definitely drink this over ice. I wouldn't just drink it straight. You want maybe a little bit more dilution, but there's just a real sweetness to that caramelly, butterscotchy goodness that's actually really nice. That kind of is my favorite so far for flavors and intensity. This, personally, maybe a little bit too weak, but still, like I could pull this out of the fridge and drink it at any moment. All right, the fourth cup. Oh, that's really interesting. It's quite a light cup of coffee, like really light, but silky. There's a texture to this. I would say it's as light as the first cup, but there is just some texture to this that there isn't in this. It seems like a cleaner cup of coffee. Cleaner, sweeter. It kind of it's quite well balanced all the way through. Like it's not jumping out at you at any moment, but it's just like really smooth and silky off the palate. This is more enjoyable than this. These would be similar cups in terms of strengths, but this is just, I don't know, there's something about this that's just elegant. It doesn't have like the butterscotchy as this first cup, but every other element is like more enjoyable. It's refreshing, but it's also kind of like next level elegance in terms of like a beverage. That's really enjoyable. All right, last cup. Now, did I mention I do use 4 brewers, but I have 5 cups, and I'm not too sure which one it is, but I brewed with a second Hario Cold Brew Pot, and instead of steeping it in the fridge for 18 hours, I steeped it on the bench for 18 hours. So I'll be curious to see how the Hario Cold Brew Pot goes from steeping in the fridge and steeping on the bench. And once I steeped it on the bench, I'll also say that I took the filter out and then chilled it back down in the fridge. So you want to store all your cold brew in the fridge. If you steep it on the bench, you do need to store it in the fridge. And then it really only store, I would say, for a window of up to 2 weeks, depending on how cool you're storing it. All right, last cup. It's got a jazzy flavor to it. Jazzy flavor. Like I can see there's like almost oils sitting on the top of this cup that there isn't on any of the other cups. It kind of, I'm not sure I enjoy this cup. It's a bit funky. There's no sweetness discernible. It's not really chocolatey. It's a little bit more funky of a flavor. Like it's taken all those elements and then added some jazz to it. It's kind of like in between these 2 cups in its profile. So it's kind of weaker. It's not these 2, which I expect to be the buckets, but it's kind of, look, I'm going to just kind of set that aside as my least favorite. This is my most favorite. All right, time for the reveal. I should swap them around and put them into my favorite to least favorite, should I? No, I won't. That'll be confusing. Let's just go from left to right and see what brewers were which. So light, butterscotchy, a little bit of chocolate, but not amazing, a little one-dimensional. The Varia Steep. Nice. Full-bodied, heavy, rich, like a little bit of brightness up front, but it's just like massive punch. The Hario Cold Brew Pot on the bench. Interesting. So I brewed it on the bench and then stored it in the fridge after that. That's really interesting. That's like really full on. This was my favorite cup. Good amount of strength, kind of balances these two, has some sweetness to it, could do anything with, could add milk to it, could water it down, could drink it over ice by itself. Quite enjoyable. This is the Toddy cold brew system. Nice. If not for the strength, this is really enjoyable. There is some texture to this that none of the other cups have. And I think the texture kind of comes out because it isn't intense as these two cups. So it has that ability to provide that little bit of texture that's not overblown by the flavor intensity that there is. And this was coming from the Hario Cold Brew Pot that I stored in the fridge. That's really cool. That's really nice. And then finally, this would be the Espro, which weirdly didn't work out for me. It just, I don't know, there's something to this. Like, not too sure why the oils came through this one and not the others. But yeah, maybe it was the recipe, I'm not too sure. But that was really curious. All right, but that is my flavor breakdown of these 5 cold brews. Now, where did we go with the hot brew versus the cold brew? It was these two. Wow, they really turned out differently. Like even the intensity of the cup itself. So on one hand, it was like the most intense cup, and on the other hand, it had the most texture from the Hario Cold Brew Pot, which I think is a fantastic result there. I think it's time to summarize. So there you have it, 4 awesome cold brewers to suit different needs and styles. And whether you want quick and easy, premium quality, or a big batch to last you a week, there is a cold brewer for you. And whichever one of these you choose, you're in for a refreshing coffee experience. So grab your favorite beans, give it a try, and let the cold brewing adventures begin. Let me know also in the comment section down below which of these brewers you'd be excited to try. And thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you've enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video.